Got that right into the middle of the Medicare. I'm going to reach the environment. In a second. By the way, did I tell you that although I went to the Immaculate Conception Grammar School, Malden Catholic, Boston College, and Boston College Law School, I married the dream. I married a Jewish doctor, ladies and gentlemen. She's the key. She's the key. She's absolutely been fantastic. So the goal that I have is to make sure that I bring all these issues to the American people. That everyone understands what John and Jim were talking about when they came up here. You know, it's absolutely right at the heart of our agenda. And Mr. Mayor, what Worcester stands for, what it's all about, what the heart of the Democratic Party in Worcester has always stood for. And that is making sure that we keep that core safety net intact. And it's why, you know, Jim McGovern and I have voted exactly the same since the day that Jimmy came to Congress, because we agree on all these issues. We do agree that our votes on President Obama's healthcare bill was our greatest vote in our congressional. Ensuring that every child in America has health care. Ensuring that being a woman is no longer a pre-existing condition. Ensuring that the donut hole for prescription drugs was closed. Ensuring that if you had a child under 26, you could keep them on your insurance policy. Ensuring that if you became sick, you could not become bankrupt. 2/3 of all personal bankruptcies in the United States just 3 years ago came from medical bills. 2/3 of all personal bankruptcies. That is now illegal. So I'm proud to have voted for that healthcare bill, because it is transforming the relationship between healthcare and the average American family. In the same way that that preventative care was put on the books, so too do we need preventative care for our planet. The planet is running a fever, but there are no emergency rooms for sick planets. So we have to make sure that we unleash a green revolution of wind and solar and biomass and geothermal. The Bay State, but we are also the brain state. We know we can do this. We know that we can become a communications revolution because we did it. We know that we can unleash a biotech revolution and a clean energy revolution. We know that the young people are ready to go. We know that if we give them the tools, we know that if we break down the power which the fossil fuel industry has over the energy agenda in our country, we know that we can do it. We are Massachusetts. We are the brain state. We know that we can do it. We know that when a Nobel Prize in Science is won out of UMass Medical School, we know that we can do it. We know that when a UMass Medical School breakthrough helps to identify and cure a pediatric AIDS case just 3 or 4 months ago, we know that we can do it. We know that we can do things that people feel are impossible if we invest in science, if we invest in technology, if we invest in education. We know that we can do that. That is what Mary, that is what everyone here is fighting for up in the State House, for Worcester, for Massachusetts. It is what makes us special in our state. And we are not going to allow a senator to go down there to Washington who is going to be nodding their head when Mitch McConnell is nodding his head. We believe that we have to send a message from Massachusetts. We are only 2% of the population in America. That's all that 6 million people is out of 300 million. 2%. But we are the brain state. We are the state that understands that you have to make the investment in the next generation.
Right. Right, Ed.
Now, when it comes to when it comes to education, I was struck, by what happened just a couple of weeks ago, because It was triumph and tragedy at the same time. It was a tragedy of all of the people who were harmed and injured by that terrible terrorist attack just 2 weeks ago. And our hearts go out to them. But at the same time, there was a triumph. There was a triumph. You know, Martin Luther King said that hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can drive out hate. And what we saw on that day were four first responders running towards the tragedy. Individual private citizens running towards the tragedy. We saw love heading towards the hate. Love driving out the hate. Love responding in a way that said that the people of Boston, that the people of Massachusetts, we're not going to allow hate to win. So a couple of days ago, I went over to where that first bomb went off, just so I could see it. And I looked across the street, and it was the Boston Public Library. It's directly across the street. And there's an inscription across the top of it, 1 block long. And what it says is, the Commonwealth requires the education of its people in order to preserve order and liberty. And so it is our job to make sure that not only do we not retreat, but we continue to democratize access to opportunity through education, through healthcare, through improving everyone's access to what it is. I went up to Lawrence 8 weeks ago, and Marco Stevers is the state representative. He is a Dominican American. He introduced me and endorsed me in Spanish and in English. And it was very powerful for me because I told him the story that my father had grown up in Lawrence on the first floor of a triple-decker on Phillip Street. A graduate of Lawrence, the vocational program of Lawrence High School, my father. The fourth of 5 children, in the shadow of the mills. And my father wound up being a milkman, driving a truck for the Wood Milk Company. My mother, on the other hand, she was going to be valedictorian, but in the junior year in high school, her mother died, my grandmother died, and before Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the social safety net for America was one of the girls is going to have to stay home to raise the younger 3 girls. There is no unemployment insurance, there is no Social Security, there is no Medicare, there's nothing. That's the social safety net. Just one of these illnesses just took the whole family off the rails for a generation. That's how it used to be before the Democratic Party. And so my mother and father, the truck driver and the valedictorian, my mother would say to me, Eddie, she would say, well, she was doing my calculus for me because my brothers and I couldn't do calculus. She never had it, but she would just do it. She would say, Eddie, you're no smarter than your mother or father or grandmother and grandfather. I'm the first person to ever go to college on either side of my family. No one had ever gone before. But she wanted to let me know that I'm not smarter than all those people who never got to go to college. And she also wanted me to know that I'll never work as hard as my father, the milkman, delivering milk. He used to have Roxbury as his delivery. You have to go up and down those steps, the 3 deckers, at 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning. They want the milk and the eggs on the doorstep. That's a hard job, my mother would say. You could hear my father going out of the house when I was a kid early in the morning. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. That's hard work. So I don't work as hard as my father works. I'm not as smart as my mother. But what she would say is, Eddie, you and your brothers, you're going to get opportunities that no one in your family has ever had before. And she had me at age 39 and my brothers at age 40. And by the way, you do not want to be raised by a woman who already raised a family. That is unfair competition. That's not good. But the reality is that this race is really all about those kids on the porch up in Lawrence. Because after my Aunt Margie, the youngest, passed away 3 years ago, my father's younger sister,